Hello, I'm Tony Harwood and I'm the Resilience and Emergencies Manager for Kent County Council. The fungus which is devastating European ash across Kent's ancient woodlands and other semi-natural habitats is an accidental assassin. The fungus behind the ash dieback infection lives completely harmlessly with its host in the Far East with Manchurian ash. However, when Manchurian ash was introduced into Western Europe, the fungus leapt species into our own native European ash, and that's where the trouble started, because European ash had no resistance to that fungus. The fungus produces a toxin called viridiol, which is necrotic. It kills the tissue in the plant. So you see this dead tissue either side of a dead side shoot, and that is a typical diagnostic of the infection. As you can see, this tree is dead, absolutely dead. Everything above this point has actually died off. This is functionally dead above this point. Whereas further down, we've still got living tissue. You can see there's buds growing on here, but the tree is clearly dying back. Here you have a very clear purple tinge to that side branch. When the infection first takes hold, that mauve tinge is again another key diagnostic that you've got the infection there. When ash trees die back naturally, they tend to go a kind of greyer colour, whereas when ash dieback is involved, there is this mauve tinge in there, but this diamond-shaped lesion is an unmistakable diagnostic for the infection. Ash dieback in Kent is most prevalent in the east of the county, particularly within the M20 corridor and the Kent Downs in East Kent. And there are sporadic outbreaks of ash dieback in Mid Kent and West Kent, but it's really in the east that we've got the real problems. So therefore we identified an infection zone where we seek to prevent vegetative material such as fallen ash leaves and leafy brash and other potentially infective material being taken to Mid and West Kent. And as you can see from this picture, the area shaded green is our infection zone within East Kent, and what we're seeking to do through raising awareness and through the policies which are put out to our partners from the strategic coordinating group managing the outbreak is preventing anthropogenic transfer of the infection to the west. As you can see from the yellow arrow, prevailing winds in Kent come from the southwest, particularly in the summer months when the spores are produced by the fungus in June and July. So nature is helping us in helping pin the infection in East Kent. And therefore, if we can shut down routes for transmission through human action of carrying leaves and leafy brash to the west, we can slow its spread. I mean, there will be an incremental creep of the infection, but hopefully we are slowing the spread. We're making it more manageable. We're allowing nature to cope better by healing itself and filling gaps within woodlands slowly, rather than the entire county suddenly being devoid of ash. And we're also crucially making it far more affordable for the likes of local authorities who are looking after highways and street trees. As mentioned, Kent has got 20,000 European ash street trees, and people who are managing parks and open spaces. So it's a key theme of the work we're doing is implementing enhanced biosecurity, and that applies to all trees and plants and indeed animals, and not just ash. It makes good sense. What's also significant in Kent is it's changed the way that we've done things in relation to tree surveys and so on, because dieback of ash is most visible in the summer, whereas most tree surveys looking at the health of trees are done in the winter when the leaves aren't there and you can actually see the form of the tree, and you can see where there are dead branches, you can see where there are problems. That doesn't work so well for ash dieback. It's really when the trees are covered in leaves when you can tell that there's areas of dieback and that have been exposed. Resilience partners in Kent that sit on the strategic coordinating group managing the ash dieback response in the county have produced a number of public information leaflets, as well as providing training, awareness training for the arboriculture industry and others. This leaflet, Managing Kalara Ash Dieback in Kent, has been very well received and is now being rolled out nationally, and can be found on Kent County Council's website, kent.gov. It provides do's and don'ts for the response, it provides background information, and it also gives some tips on alternative approaches for planting species that can be utilised which do not have the same vulnerability, such as small-leaf lime and so on. Here we are, just a few hundred metres from the very heavily infected trees that we saw in a semi-natural habitat. And as you can see, these ash trees are in rude health. The reason for this is their environment is far less hospitable to the fungus which produces the spores, which causes the annual cycle of infection and reinfection in subsequent years. From the hard standing that we're surrounded by, from the wind tunnel effect that we're in, this is not the kind of area where the fallen rachises, where the fallen leaf sections which grow the fungus the year after they fall, can prosper. And as a result, we've not seen infection. And this is one of the reasons why the impact has not been as profound in Kent as we had feared. We have found that ash dieback is prevalent within woodlands and semi-natural settings, but our urban areas, our street trees, have suffered far less infection. What we've tended to do on our street trees is just carry out the minimum work required. So instead of felling the tree completely, we'll be carrying out safety and aesthetic interventions. As you can see from these large ash trees growing by the A20, we have not hacked the tree back completely, but there is just removal of dead wood. So there's some crown reshaping rather than completely felling. And though there may be subsequent reinfection in subsequent years, our experience is that in urban settings such as this, reinfection is not that prevalent. So hopefully these large and beautiful ash trees behind me will last for many years to come. In terms of the strategic coordinating group, we have established that under something called the Civil Contingencies Act. The Civil Contingencies Act is emergency planning legislation, and that emergency planning legislation within Part 1 of the Act actually states that a threat to the environment and a place in the United Kingdom is a major emergency. So we've hung ash dieback on that in the same way that we would if we had animal health problems. So if we have foot and mouth outbreaks, if we have other issues, we use that architecture, that framework of the Civil Contingencies Act, because it provides an opportunity to get all key players across. There's a duty to cooperate under the Civil Contingencies Act, and through our regular meetings with the private and public sector present, we have got concerted action across the county, and our survey work, our 2 kilometre square tetrad surveys, seem to suggest that we have at least slowed the spread of the infection in the county, which is making it more manageable.